Hey folks, it's Ardwulf. Welcome. Today we have a special unboxing of a brand new game from Nuts Publishing, Italia, 1917 to 1918, A Farewell to Arms. And this is brought to you courtesy of Nuts Publishing, so big shout out to the fine folks over there for sending this my way. It looks very promising. Obviously this is a World War I campaign, relatively late World War I, and it looks to me like an operational level game, and it's the Caporetto campaign. So what we got here, obviously if you don't know, and Nuts Publishing are starting to garner some significant attention even here in the US, but they are a French publisher that has been around for quite a while, and they're really, seems to me, based on their increasing visibility in the YouTube and social media spaces, that folks are starting to take notice, and they got some really cool games. Their game, We Are Coming Nineveh, for example, was a very strong contender for the Charles S. Roberts Awards this past year, and indeed walked away from that affair with an award. This is their latest. And again, the game looks pretty cool. And what we got here is what I feel like is a pretty standard European box where the lid's a little shorter than the bottom for whatever reason. And it's, I'm sure, some kind of European printing size. But all the text that I've seen so far anyway is in English. So let's open her up and see what we have here. I want to say the only Nuts Publishing game that I have actually handled the components to already has been We Are Coming Nineveh, and I haven't played that, but I have seen the components. We had it on a table at Origins. All right, so we've got a bag of baggies, which I'll find a use for somewhere, and 4 six-sided dice, which come in gray and green, and of course a couple of white ones. We've got 2 packs of cards. I think I didn't know that this would have cards in it, but I mean, they are pictured on the back of the box. We've got more maps than I expected. There's 3 maps here. We'll set one of those out on the table in a second. And then we got a bunch of booklets and stuff. All right, so there are 3 maps in the box, and it looks like there are multi-map configurations. The maps look really nice. This does have a hex map. Looks like at least one of these. This one is also double-sided. This one's not. And they're European map size, which means they're 9 panels. It's a little different than a standard 8-panel map printed in the US. But it's, you know, it's of a comparable size at least. It looks really nice too. Here's Venice down here in the corner. I'm not sure if you can see that in frame. But this, of course, is northern Italy, where the fighting, or the frontier between Italy and Austria, I guess I should say, where the fighting takes place. All right, so we have a bunch of player aids and then 2 booklets. There's rules and advanced rules, and it looks like the scenarios are in the rule book. So these are going to be the standard A4, A5, or whatever it is. This feels like it's about 32 pages, roughly. Where's the page number? It's 28 pages, actually. Full color, relatively glossy paper, relatively small print, and small margins. So not hugely long in terms of page count, but the density appears to be reasonably high. The rulebook looks good. I don't know offhand if there is a online version of these rules. Obviously it is in English, so I'm pretty sure they have a French version too, but they didn't send me that one, which is good because I wouldn't be able to read it. We do have a number of scenarios. Looks like at least 5 scenarios, and those are here. And each of them are going to have different map configurations. This is a really interesting topic, by the way, in my opinion. So, design, development, and historical research by Stéphane Sénéchal. Original game system by Nicolas Redent, which is... Does that mean that this is sharing a system with a previous game? That's possible. I would be curious. There might be... Are there designer's notes in here? Okay, so we have found the answer. So this continues the game system created by Nicolas Redent for Marne 1918 Friedensturm and Somme 1918 Bloody Spring, neither of which I'm familiar with at all. So that explains why this was a little bit surprising to me. Now, we do have these advanced rules as well, and there's an introduction to the advanced rules. And this feels like it's maybe 18, 19, it is 20 pages. Same format, same paper. Minimal illustrations, but it's a very attractively produced book. Graphics by Angelica Karadec and Thomas Pouchon. English translation by Angus Clark. So we got the answer to that. Now, there are a pile of play aids, a decent-sized pile of play aids, and two of them are these cards that contain combat resolution, artillery, disengagement, a bunch of modifiers and stuff like that, and these are going to be identical. It's interesting because what I take to be like the title side is on what I would also take to be the back. I mean, that's not a problem in any sense. It's just interesting. We have setup cards, which is a feature I really strongly favor personally. So this is Central Powers Setup Part 1. All right, so this is for the campaign game and the Caporetto scenario, and then the back side is for the Solstice, Radetzky, and Albrecht scenarios. So again, there are 5 different scenarios. Here's more setup cards. I really like to have this kind of thing. I think this facilitates setup. There's another wrinkle to that if you think about it, because I will actually take these setup cards and then organize the game based on what I see on the setup cards. That way it's expedited setup when we actually play. Here is a scenario map for Monte Grappa, the Sacred Mountain. That is an introductory scenario. On the back of that, we've got more setup cards, but in this case, reinforcements and withdrawals. More setup cards, more setup cards. Here we have the terrain effects chart, which does have the graphical images on it, as well as the various effects. And there's a decent number of different terrain types, but it's kind of a big area too, so I'm not surprised by that. Here's Monte Grappa. This is the setup card for that. Reorganization 1. That's interesting. All right, and then we've got some displays here. Not sure what to do with these. These are single-sided. We've got our turn record track here. So the total game scope here is looks like late October 1917 to early November 1918. So that's interesting. That's single-sided, and then this display, and this is going to be strategic reserves and stuff like that. This looks really neat. Now we also have 3 counter sheets. It was very interesting to see in these. These are on a fairly thick, heavy brown core stock, and they are. I see center nibs, which I disapprove of, but they might punch cleanly despite that. Some games do, like World in Flames does. There are center nibs, and they are visible, but they don't have. You can't really feel them, so it's not really a big deal. They aren't going to get caught on anything. So double-sided counters. These are just the markers, and then these are our units. And we have what I take to be the Austrians and or Germans. And these are probably the Italians. These are definitely the Italian. But it looks like we do have some other nationalities here, which I am not positive that I can identify that quickly. They are roughly half-inch counters, and there are going to be 280 counters on this sheet. So even though it's a different form factor sheet than we normally see in the US, there's the same number of counters on it. And there's 3 of these. They are not pre-rounded or anything like that. I'm pretty cool with that myself, but don't get me wrong, if somebody did the work for me already, that's cool. These do kind of feel like they have a coating on them, much like Thin Red Lines counters. That makes me wonder if maybe Nuts Publishing is going to the same place. I don't recall noticing that on the counters for We Are Coming Nineveh, but it isn't impossible that I just missed it. So this will all fit pretty handsomely back in the box, and it looks like the box will also accommodate 1 counter tray, and it's roughly a 2-inch box. The maps don't like exactly fit in the box, but even so, I think I could get 1 counter tray in here. A Nuts Publishing counter tray. A Cube for Me counter tray, that is, which would be my preference for this kind of game. But I guess, since we're here and we got it open, and I don't have to reach very far for a Cube for Me counter tray, boom, there we go. Fits perfectly in the box. And I am pretty confident I can get 3 counter sheets into one of those trays with my dividers, which are available to the patrons of Ardwulf's Lair as 3D printable models. So check out the links in the video description for the Patreon. So, once again, thanks to Nuts Publishing for sending me Italia 1917 to 1918, A Farewell to Arms by designer Stefan Seneschal. Looks super interesting. Operational level World War I. I love this kind of stuff. This looks very intriguing, and I am delighted to add it to my collection. Once again, thanks, Nuts Publishing.
Massive thanks to the patrons of Ardwulf's Lair, whose support and encouragement make what we do at Ardwulf's Lair possible.
thank you patrons. Links to help support the channel are in the video description, so check out the Patreon, the Ko-Fi, and the merch store where you can get snazzy Ardwulf Lair t-shirts, drinking vessels, and other cool swag. There is also an affiliate link for Noble Knight games in the video description. If you buy stuff through that affiliate link, it helps us support the channel with Noble Knight store credit. Thank you, Noble Knight. Until next time, thanks for watching, and happy gaming.